All right, tell people to go to switch the camera. Share it to Facebook.
Or text me the link and I'll okay. Should we tell people
I think what we do is we tell people to go to the current stream.
right, I know. This is the link.
Yeah, so post the new link.
I'm working.
Okay.
Well, like, are we gonna start now or are we gonna start in 5 minutes?
Let's give it 5 minutes. I mean, if there are only 2 people watching this right now, then honestly, we maybe should have recorded it ahead of time. That's a thing you can do. I don't think going live would be this hard though. We've got 3 watchers. Hi watchers, thank you for staying with us. We're working through some technical difficulties, but we love you.
So, if you can't get it, we will move forward. I'll send that to.
We had, I think, roughly 70 say they were going, but some of it is like we had a few people say they were going to do a viewing party. So like one watcher might represent a lot of people. Yeah, so maybe we have a lot more than 5. Yeah, so I say we give it a little bit of time. Did we ever, we talked a little bit about how did we go? I'm sure we was it. Was that, did that not happen?
Making it perfect.
I know, yeah. Yeah, baby, love that. Just listen. So, I guess we wait to see what's going on with you, Sean.
I'm adding that link to our Facebook.
Okay. Got 8 watchers. Thanks for sticking with us, watchers. 12. Here we go. This is going to be pulled off one way.
Let me text it to Sean.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing with this Facebook is that there's people so 15 watchers. Promise it's worth it. Yeah. The whole thing. Oh my god. Yeah. The Lord. Yeah. My face. That's what we're all right. Well, that's the way technology goes. 17 watchers. We see y'all. Oh.
She can see it.
Perfect. All right. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes to let people catch up.
Hi everyone, we'll start in 1 or 2 minutes if you're just joining us now. Despite all of our tests, technology is challenging, so we love your patience and we'll start soon. Someone said, hey yo, so I'll say, hey yo.
Yeah, we can watch it again.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for hanging with us. Technology-wise, we've got a bunch of millennials in a room, and not even we can figure out YouTube Live sometimes. So hope for all of us. But forgiveness and grace abound. And we are so excited to welcome you to this engagement ceremony this morning. We're coming to you today from the First Congregational Church of Crystal Lake. That's out in the western suburbs of Chicago. I'm Emily Davis. I'm one of the pastors of this church, and I'm lucky enough to call David and Sean friends of mine. So I'm really pleased to be with you this morning. As we go through this ceremony, some of you have already gotten started, but I'd like to invite you to use the comment box that you see on your screen to leave blessings for Sean and David. These can be posted at any time throughout the ceremony. You can post as many as you like. We won't be able to see them until the ceremony is done, but they will be read and cherished after that happens. And finally, you'll see that we are seated in this worship space. So if you're not already, we invite you to do the same. Find a comfortable space in your home or wherever it is that you're streaming from. Welcome in the grace of that comfort of being seated and amongst a community of beloved family and friends as we welcome in the grace-filled presence of our loving God. We're going to begin this service with a few readings. 2 from Scripture, and another one that is a poem written by Roy Croft. But first, we'd like you to hear these words from 1 Samuel chapter 18. When David had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was bound to the soul of David. Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. And then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that he was wearing and gave it to David and his armor and even his sword and his bow and his belt. And now hear these words from Song of Songs, chapter 2, verses 10 through 13. My beloved speaks to me and says to me, "Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. For now the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth its figs, and the vines are in blossom, and they give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away with me." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. And finally, Sean and David would like to share in reading a poem about love. So I will leave it to you two.
David, I love you not only for what you are, but for what I am when I am with you. I love you not only for what you have made of yourself, but for what you are making of me.
Sean, I love you for the part of me that you bring out. I love you for putting your hand into my heaped up heart and passing over all the foolish, weak things that you can't help dimly seeing there, and for drawing out into the light all the beautiful belongings that no one else quite looked hard enough to find.
I love you because you are helping me to make, out of the lumber of my life, not a tavern but a temple, out of the works of my everyday, not a reproach but a song.
I love you because you have done more than any creed could have done to make me good, and more than any fate to make me happy.
You have done it without a touch, without a word, without a sign. You have done it by being yourself.
So friends, if you're like me, you did a really embarrassing happy dance on the day that you found out that David and Sean were engaged. I assume that if you tune into this live stream, no matter how long you have known these two, a few years, a few months, their whole lives, it's because you know them to be two individually incredible people. Both are full of passion and compassion. Each one is wonderful, cherishable, a person who brings something absolutely unique into your life. And so it should be no surprise, probably, then, that these two have recognized these same unique qualities in each other. That this loving relationship is one that they want to last. One day they're going to say that with marriage, and we'll celebrate that when the time comes. But today, we celebrate a part of the journey that is entirely its own. Sean and David's engagement in and of itself is worth celebrating, because engagement, when a couple and their greater community leans into it, is a unique and irreplaceable time. Now, this particular engagement was marked inwardly when David and Sean shared their personal proposal just a few weeks ago, when they promised privately to share their love enduringly together. In a few moments, it's going to be marked outwardly when they exchange engagement rings and important stories, so stay tuned. When they do that, I invite us all to remember that today these two are not just exchanging engagement rings. They're also exchanging expectations and promises. Promises marked most profoundly, perhaps, by this transition that happens in engagement from may to must. So before your engagement, Sean and David, you may have done many things. Just by virtue of who you are and the early deep strength of your relationship, you may have asked yourself hard questions. And you may have engaged in profound shared experiences. And you may have communicated and compromised. But now you must. You must share your joys and your fears and your strengths and your weaknesses, your deepest traumas and your greatest triumphs. You must talk openly and honestly and intimately and exhaustively. You must take time and make time. You must forgive and be forgiven. You must be a part of each other's communities and families. So to put it plainly, being engaged, you must engage. Friends near and far, Sean and David have long since been embarked on a journey together, and you have long since been a part of it. But now, with these two having signaled their seriousness to each other and to us, it's time for us all to lean into this together. So let's lean in to their devotion, their honesty, their partnership and trust. Let's lean in to their engagement and to their love. As the first step of that leaning in for these two and for all of us as we share it with them, I'm going to invite David and Sean to stand. They're going to share some stories and words with each other. They're going to share rings, and I am going to get out of the way.
I like to say Sean and I were introduced by two women. The first was his mother, Tracy, who was one of those church ladies that notices every visitor and tries to make them feel welcome. When I started attending First Congregational Church in Manhattan, Kansas, she was one of the first members to meet me. She was always inviting me to one church event or another. Eventually, she invited me over for dinner, where I met Sean's father and his brother before I met him. I knew Sean was part of the family, but they didn't talk about him too often, and I was only vaguely aware of him. Little did I know that Tracy had a plan in the works. The other woman to introduce us was our mutual friend, Tamara. She was one of my first friends at the K-State math department, and we were pretty close. I'd heard her talk about her pastor friend before, but all I knew about him was that he was working at a church and he had given her a car. So I assumed he was pretty well established, probably middle-aged with a family, and I had no clue that Damara was working on a meeting between us. Well, one day Damara and I had planned to get lunch. She said her pastor friend had offered to give us a ride. I had been a little annoyed at the time that she had invited someone else without asking me, but I wasn't going to say no to a free ride, no walking. And when Sean picked us up, I was a little stunned. I thought, he's our age. She never said he was our age. How could he afford to give away a car? So the three of us were waiting in line in this restaurant to order, and Demora just casually slips in that Sean and I are both gay. It felt very forced, but it finally dawned on me what all the weirdness was about. She was trying to set me up. I later learned that Tracy had been coordinating this meeting and dinners and conversations with Sean to try to get us to go out. When I first heard it, I felt a little manipulated, but I realized it was because these people loved us and they wanted us to be happy. I also realized that Sean lived up to the things that I'd heard about him, that he was generous, that he was a skilled leader, that he was the most organized person on earth. He was someone real and dependable, whom I could build a life with. After the lunch with Demora, we dated for 4 more months before we officially became boyfriends. And then almost exactly a year later, I kissed Sean goodbye in the cab of a moving van that took him to Chicago. One torturously long semester passed this last spring, and then I joined him here. We had talked about marriage a few times by then, never with any sort of finality, always aware of the challenges that a marriage between us would bring in America in 2018. To be honest, I was really afraid. I wasn't sure if Sean had seen all the secret places in me yet, and I wasn't sure if he'd still love me if he did. How could I know for sure if he was the one? I thought I would need years to be certain, but love's timing is always different from our own. So one night in July, after a stressful week and a long day, I found myself in tears before Sean, unsure what the future held for us. I didn't know if my move here had been a mistake, and I didn't know if I had jumped in too quickly. I was so afraid. But Sean held my hand, and he met my gaze, and he said, "David, there is nothing you could tell me that would make me want to leave you. I am with you till the end." In that moment, I knew I could trust him with the rest of my life. And so, without a ring, without any plan or preparation, in our bed at home, I held Sean's hand and I asked him to marry me. When he said yes, my bones rejoiced and my spirit was close to God, and I knew what had been meant for us by that surprise meeting so long ago in Manhattan, Kansas. I love you, Sean. I cherish your partnership and your patience with me. I know we come from different places, but I believe that our differences make us stronger together. So, as an outward sign of our covenant together, I ask you to take this ring. It's not a ring to enclose or bind you, but to encircle you with love wherever you go, and to remember that I'm always with you. Will you marry me, Sean?
Yes. Now it's my turn. Sometime in the fall of 2016, my beloved mother told me about a graduate student that she had met at church. At first I was half listening because my mom meets a lot of people at church. She told me that his name was David. She said he was very, very polite, that he had just moved here and that he was a graduate student in math. She told me that he reminded her of me. And then she just slipped right in there that he was gay. I rolled my eyes and I said to my mom, "Come on, I'm not interested in someone just because they're gay." Remains true. Fast forward a few months later. A friend of mine recently told me that just a few months before I met David, I had told her that I would probably live my life alone with a cat. I figured that there wasn't someone out there for someone like me, and if there was, I didn't know how to find them. I was pretty focused on my work. And then our mutual friend Amara tricked us into going on a date together. The three of us ate at Popeyes. David was decked out in Mickey Mouse gear.
I had a hat.
I was wary, but I thought I should give it a chance. And I'm so happy that I did. David is right that I'm organized and that I'm a planner, and my plan did not include meeting somebody at this time in my life. And so I found myself resisting as we grew closer. I knew that I would be moving sooner than later because I was beginning a job search. But I decided that life was short and that it would be silly not to honor a gift that God had given me. I had a feeling a while ago that we were going to get married. I've never known anybody who is so intelligent, both in the head and in the heart. David is warm and caring and goofy and funny and intelligent and beautiful. And I know that he has worked so hard to be where he is today and to be who he is. He's brought out the best in me and he's loved the worst in me. I've never been happier in my entire life. And he's even gotten me to dance a little bit. At some point along the way, I had told David that I was ready to marry him when he was ready to marry me. David wanted more time, and it was important for me that he have that time. I was a bit impatient. I do impatience well. But I figured that the next step was his, and I was willing to wait. Then fast forward to July 21st, when David and I were having one of our many intricate conversations. We both shared some things that we hadn't shared before. And one of the most amazing things about this relationship is that we're both able to really hear each other, even when it's hard. As the conversation came to a close, David asked me to marry him. And at first I wasn't shocked. I hadn't expected him to be ready yet. And I caught myself, and I said yes. And it's my favorite question that anyone has ever asked me. There have been bumps along the road, but we've learned to work our way through them, around them, above them, somehow together. Meeting David is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I wouldn't trade this relationship for anything in the world. David Williams, do you do the honor of marrying me? Yes, I will. We're both criers, so you should be really proud of us for holding ourselves together.
I'm amazed.
Just saying.
Friends, at this time, I'd like to invite you to join me in offering David and Sean our blessing. So one ancient sign of blessing is to hold up a hand toward the folks or the thing that you are blessing. We're blessing folks. So hold up a hand toward your screen if you would like to. And please help me bless these two on this engagement day. Sean and David, through this ceremony, you have pledged yourself to one another in spiritual and personal union. May you bring each other as much happiness as your presence has brought to all of our lives. May your love shine brighter and your companionship grow richer with each passing day. And as you begin this next step, may you be like David and Jonathan, giving all that you have to one another, loving each other as your own soul. Friends, thank you again for being here today. May you have a wonderful, beautiful Saturday, and may the peace of Christ, which passes all understanding, go with you always.